Welcome to HEG's fourth quarter 17-18 and last year's annual results conference call. As shared with you in our previous con calls, in early 2017, the Chinese government decided to crack down on some of the highly polluting industries due to serious environmental concerns, which resulted into closure of unaccounted induction furnaces totaling about 150 million tons. This I am quoting from the latest communications from World Steel Association. Besides these 150 million tons of induction arc furnaces, the Chinese government has committed to close down an additional 150 million tons of blast furnaces over the next 5 years at the rate of 30 million tons per annum between 2016 and 2020. These closures have led to a large drop in steel exports from China to the rest of the world. This has dropped from 108 million tons in 2016 to 75 million tons in 2017, which is a drop of over 30% in 1 year. In Q1 2018, on an annualized basis, these exports have fallen further to 60 million tons, which is a drop of a staggering 44% over 2016. As you are aware, about 45% of the total steel in the rest of the world, the Western world, is being produced by the electric arc furnace route. And with Chinese exports coming down sharply to these countries, coupled with a large growth in steel production in the rest of the world last year, the electric arc furnace steel production registered a robust growth of about 8 to 10% in 2017 over 2016, and it is expected to grow at a similar level in the current year. Total world steel production, including blast furnace, went up by about 5.3% in 2017 and 4.1% in January-March 18. This clearly shows that EAF production has outgrown the blast furnace production in the last 18 months or so. This has happened in the backdrop of closure of 6 graphite plants between 2013 and 15 in the Western world. These capacities accounted for more than 20% of the total ultra-high power electrode capacities of the world. So all this additional shift to the electric arc furnace production in the world, coupled with the closures of these 6 plants, graphite plants, has obviously led to a sharp increase in the demand for electrodes and the current demand-supply imbalance in the Western world. It is reported that in China, 105 new electric arc furnaces with a total capacity of as much as 66 million tons per annum have either commenced operations or will commence operations by the second half of the current year. This would lead to a very substantial increase in demand of electrodes in China over the next few years. And I'm sure they are taking steps to increase their own graphite capacities to meet this additional demand, especially when the Western world is already facing a shortage and would not be able to meet this additional demand of China. However, these electrode capacities, new capacities which should come up in China, would primarily be geared to make non-UHP electrodes, which would have no impact on producers like us and others in the world, whose primary production is that of ultra-high power. And as we all know, China doesn't have the technology for ultra-high power electrodes, and companies like us have not been competing with China anywhere in the world. It is also reported that China has increased their electric arc furnace production from about 48 million tons in 2016 to 70 million tons last year. This is a whopping 46% increase in just 1 year. And the total steel production through electric arc furnace is likely to reach 100 million tons by end of this year. So if you look at 2016 data of 48 million tons going up to 70 million tons in early 2017, in end 2017, and by the end of 2018, this number is likely to be 100 million tons, so which is a 50 million tons additional electric arc furnace steel capacities in China. In order to reach a level of 20% of steel through electric arc furnace by 2020, which is what the Chinese government policy is, this is an announced policy in their document, they will be adding another 60 million tons capacity in 2019 and 2020. Just to clarify, I've been throwing a lot of numbers. So this is likely to happen by 2020, so which would mean from 48 million tons in 2016, it is likely to be 100 million tons by end of this year, and by 2020, which is only 2.5 years away, this figure is likely to be 160 million tons. So this is a threefold increase in about 4 years' time. Now, obviously, this kind of growth in electric arc furnace has never been seen in the past. Now, coming to our own country, our steel production in India grew by 6.2% to 101 million tons. We just surpassed Japan to become the second largest producer of steel in the world. And in Q1 2018, it has posted a further growth of 3.8% to 27 million tons over the same quarter last year. Friends, all these developments augur well for our industry, which is directly connected with the electric arc furnace industry. We thus expect a strong demand growth for our products to continue in the future. We are fully booked for both domestic and export sales for this quarter and the next quarter, and we will open up our order books for Q3 and Q4 sometime in June. As strong demand for graphite electrode continues, needle coke supply remains tight, as part of the needle coke has now found a new application in lithium-ion batteries in China, and every electrode producer in the world is not able to find enough coke to operate at full capacity. The good news is that as we speak, one of the largest producers of needle coke is debottlenecking its capacity, which will enable them to increase their production by about 50,000 tons. This is likely to be on stream in the second half of 2018. This should help the graphite industry to some extent from Q4 onwards to add to their capacity utilization. Coming to our own production, as against our capacity utilization of 80% for the full year 17-18, the capacity utilization in Q4 was 84%. We have debottlenecked some of our capacities at the plant in the meantime, which should allow us to operate in the high 80s in the current year. In summary, I would like to state that we continue to remain optimistic about our company's prospects, given a trend of more and more steel being shifted to electric arc furnace in the entire world. As I said earlier, China is on way to add 110 million tons of electric arc furnace capacities between 2016 and 2020, which will create a huge demand of electrodes in China. And if Chinese electrode companies are not able to restart some of their recently closed electrode plants due to environmental issues, China could open up a new, huge, large market for companies like ours, given that do still produce about 20% of non-UHP electrodes. And while the rest of the graphite producers in Japan and US have stopped making non-UHP electrodes, they're doing about 100% of UHP, the Indian companies continue to produce 20 to 25%. So what I'm trying to say is, if China is adding 110 million tons of electric arc furnace, which would mean an additional demand of about 250,000 tons per year. So it is quite possible that this will open up a new avenue for companies like us. With this, I would now request Mr. Rastogi to take you through the financials, and then we'll be very happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Good afternoon, friends. For the quarter ended March 18, HEG recorded net operating income of 1,292 crores as against 843 crore in the previous quarter, a jump of nearly 53% quarter on quarter and nearly 384% on a yearly basis for the same quarter. EBITDA, including other income, which stood at 563 crore in the previous quarter, has increased to 955 crore, a jump of nearly 70% quarter on quarter and nearly 3,000% year on year for the same period. Company reported a net profit of 634 crore in Q4 as against profit of 342 crore in the previous quarter. The company has reported its highest ever turnover and profit after tax during financial year 18, which stood at rupees 2758 crore as turnover and 1081 crore as net profit for the year 17-18. Now, since turnover is a factor of both volume and prices, we are happy to inform that the company has been able to achieve a healthy growth in both the aspects. There has been significant change in the industry scenario as a result of China development, which was just now explained by our chairman. Corresponding to the increasing trend of sale prices in the recent past, we are witnessing a sharp increase in the prices of almost all the primary raw materials. However, we have been able not only to maintain the previous levels of margin, but improve on them. The net sales and also the segment results in power segment are lower in Q4 as we have been able to negotiate a mutually beneficial term with the government utility company and replace part of our high-cost self-generated power using by the lower-cost utility power. This step has not only reduced the volume of captive generation and transfer to graphite, but also reduced the average realization in power segment, as the revenue in power segment is booked based on corresponding rate of power as defined by the state-run utilities. This is termed as transfer pricing in the accounting parlance. Besides, as you all know, our hydro facility is rain-dependent and has not run at all during Q4 for want of adequate rains in the region. This step of power, the high-cost power replaced by utility power has reduced revenues and bottom line in the power segment of our results. But this has actually had a very favorable impact on the overall power cost of graphite electrode making. The increase in annual employee benefit expense over financial year 17 is primarily on account of provisioning for the profit-related commission payable to the CMD of the company under contractual terms of his appointment. Increase in annual power and fuel cost over financial year 17 is attributable to one-time provisioning for a legal case as well as increased level of production and also substantial increase in international crude oil prices. The finance cost during the quarter under review was primarily on account of accrual and advance payment of income tax of the company. Now, as per Indian laws, this is payable well in advance of before even realizing our revenues. So for the quarter under review, we have paid advance tax, which resulted into borrowing of working capital from the banks. Now, total debt, however, as on today, as we stand, we are on 11th of May, we are zero debt company. This entire debt of 298 crore as it stands on 31st March stands at zero as of now. The Board of Directors have recommended a highest ever 500% of final dividend, which along with interim dividend of 300% paid in February 2018, clearly demonstrate that our management wants to reward the investors for these good times. With this, I would open the forum for questions, please.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin with the question-answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handset while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. We take the first question from the line of Aditya Bakle from Equitas Investment. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, just had a question about your raw materials. I think raw material increases quarter on quarter have been pretty benign. So has it been due to we selling out of older inventory, or what is the, and can we expect higher prices going ahead?
I think Mr. Rastogi should take that question.
Okay. See this, there are two factors for this raw material cost that are booked to P&L. One is our manufacturing process takes 2.5 months to convert raw material into finished product. So if the raw material increase happens in month 1, the impact of cost happens in the 3rd month following the 1st month. And second is, we also are carrying inventories, at least because of our import procedure as well as the manufacturing process. We always have inventory worth 2 months of output in our stocks. So if you add this 2 months along with 2 months, 2.5 months of production cycle, there's a lead and lag of 4.5 months between the increase of prices and the impact in our P&L.
Right. So sequentially, we can expect a sharp increase going ahead?
Yes, you should.
Okay, fine. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Yash Shah from Unicorn Investment. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. Congratulations on a robust set of numbers.
Thank you.
Yeah. So actually, I had my question on the raw material prices volatility. Do you expect the same volatility and the prices going very significantly high in the coming year also?
Yeah, it will be.
Okay. And so in the slide number 10 of the presentation, it is been written that company is evaluating other options to expand the capacity for graphite electrodes, for expansion of graphite electrodes and other carbon adjacents. Any other color can you give on the statement?
See, this is about the future outlook that we are seeing. The company is generating cash flows, and the obvious utilization of this cash would be in the same line of business. That would be our first priority. And carbon adjacencies is, something which is coming up in the research and development area of carbon and carbon-related material. So these are two things we are actively evaluating for the times to come.
Okay, sir. So, and my last question will be on out of the total revenue, how much is from the this high power graphite electrodes, non-high power graphite electrodes?
You see, as I said, it depends on the market conditions, it depends on the costing, it depends on the margins, but an easy answer to that is you can say about 20 to 25% of our production normally is into the non-UHP. But again, let me clarify, it is not obligatory for us to produce non-UHP. So the day we see that there is a larger demand on the UHP side, which is a higher priced electrode going into better furnaces with switch. So basically, it's a matter of the margins.
Correct. Okay. Thank you, sir. That's all from my side.
Thank you.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Pavan Saraf from Nakarmal Saraf Securities. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Congratulations for the very good results and thanks for a very good dividend. My first question is, like you said, the EAF steel capacity is going to increase from roughly 50 of last year, 2016, to roughly about 160 million tons by 2020 in China. And they basically use non-UHP, that is lower grade. So I was thinking whether these European companies creating EAF facilities now, can't they shift to non-UHP? Any technical problems there? If China is using non-UHP in EAF steel plants and come up with a big capacity in non-UHP electrodes, then what would be the position? Like European companies, can't they shift from HP to UHP, UHP to HP?
No, they can. I mean, they easily can. And as I just answered, we switch every month, we switch every 2 months our proportion of UHP, non-UHP, which is basically dependent on the margin. And as far as the European and the Japanese countries are concerned, they were also producing 15-20% of non-UHP, but they vacated this market about 10 years ago. Because obviously it's a low grade of electrode. So, and just to give you an example, let's say if a 24 or a 26-inch electrode, one piece will make 1 ton. If you do a non-UHP small 14, 16-inch electrode, you may have to produce 6 pieces or 8 pieces for 1 ton. So where a product is being sold on a price of per ton basis, if you produce a UHP big size electrode, you handle one product, one piece, and in the non-UHP you will end up handling about 8 to 10 pieces depending on the size. And given that our production process is about 8 to 10 months, so these electrodes move from first process to second process until they're finished at the 6th process. So there's a lot of movement and there's a lot of to and froing of the semi-finished electrodes happen in the process. So obviously, given the labor cost disadvantage that the European or the Japanese companies have, so it doesn't make sense for them to handle 8 pieces or 9 pieces or 10 pieces to get, let's say, $10,000 versus producing 1 piece and get the same $10,000.
Yeah. And second question is how much 1 metric ton of needle coke produces in terms of USP in terms of metric tons finished product?
It's equal, 1 to 1.
1 to 1. Very good. And you talked about some time back, that is a couple of days back on TV, about the legacy contracts for graphite electrodes. Can you throw a little light on legacy contracts for raw materials, needle coke?
See, to repeat what I said on the television was that the legacy order basically meant that, as you know, the cycle of electrode sales used to be on an annual basis up till about 1 year ago. So for 2016 and part of 2017, a certain amount of electrodes were already sold and committed for a 12-month or a 15-month period at those low prices which existed in January, February last year. So, but as we speak now, our Q4, we still had about 20-22% of our sales out of these legacy orders, or let's say the low-priced orders, which in the current quarter is practically going to be zero.
No, I understood that on TV itself. I was coming to other thing, like this needle coke. For how long you have entered into the contracts and all? That was my basically the question.
Just like electrode, the needle coke was contracted for 12 months at the beginning of the year every year. Mm-hmm. But as the scenarios changed in the last 12, 14 months, just like the electrode suppliers are now quoting maybe on a quarterly basis, maybe on a maximum 6 monthly basis. So the similar shift has taken place from the needle coke side. So there is no 12-month contract now. So there is a commitment of a certain volume for 12 months, but the prices are negotiated and decided every 6 months.
Sir, recently China's SIM Group chairman, Mark Sujun, he talked in some media about a grassroots plant somewhere around Poland going forward. Can you throw some light on that?
You see, as I told you in my opening remarks, China doesn't have the technology for ultra-high power, and so China is basically into production of non-UHP electrodes because of the technology. So they would have to put, I mean, I'm not defending this question, but I'm saying that if they're adding 110 million tons of electric arc furnace, and most of them are likely to be non-UHP, small furnaces with small electrodes. So obviously there will be a demand of close to 300,000 tons in China. Part of it is already in the market. Part of it is being added this year, and another 60 million tons is going to be added between 2019 and 20. So they will require an additional production of about 300,000 tons of electrodes. So I'll be very surprised that they would have put 105 new electric arc furnace without lining up as to where the graphite electrodes are going to come from. So they would have to add very large capacities of electrodes, whether they do it in China or they do it in Poland or they do it anywhere else that they like. But otherwise, they're not going to waste this 110 million tons of capacity that they're going to add.
And sir, on an average, what is the difference between domestic prices and international prices?
See, that is something we cannot disclose. I mean, it's an information which we should not talk about. Mm-hmm. But I can only tell you that we are selling every ton of our product in India in domestic market at a lower price than what we get in exports.
And in India as well, you enter into those 3 months, 6 months contracts?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Vivek Choria, individual investor. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Yeah, hi, sir. Hi, sir. Congrats on your results. I had just 2 questions about on the supply side. You had mentioned in the past few con calls that close to 20% of the capacity had gone out of the supply chain, right? I mean, what is the risk of those capacities coming back online? Because, I mean, I'm guessing those are idle capacities. And so, I mean, if the needle coke is available, do you think there's a big risk of that supply coming back in and hampering the current benign prices?
See, I'll answer this question in 2 parts. The first was, you said there, as I said, 6 graphite plants got closed.
Yeah.
They were mostly owned by the SGL, which is now acquired by SDK, or by Graftech. And they were all in the Western world. Mm-hmm. And at least at 3 places out of those 6, the whole thing has been razed to the ground. So all the equipments are gone, everything is gone. out of the rest 3, I mean, you can imagine if you have closed a high technology plant 3 years ago, and in addition to high technology equipment that we are talking about, a lot of constructed furnaces go into the production of electrodes. So there are civil structures which go into producing these baking furnaces and graphitizing furnaces and all. So it is not easy to, I mean, obviously if you have closed the plant forever 3-4 years ago, nobody is going there, nobody is taking care of whether these conditions are good or bad or whatever it is. And in most of these cases, the movable equipments which are saleable have been sold. So these plants, the land probably exists, maybe some equipments do exist. You cannot take away a furnace, which is a civil furnace. So I can't say that there is no question of any of these 3 plants coming back, but it looks highly improbable. And the fact is that these plants, the 6 plants which were closed because at that moment they were not competitive, and they had picked up those plants which were extremely old. Some of these plants could have been 70, 80, 90 years old. So I'll be very surprised if one of these 3 plants, which are closed now, where very little things exist as far as equipment are concerned, to come back.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Abhishek Gupta from Yes Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi. Hello. Congrats on the good results. Just want to understand on the supply side risks. You had mentioned 2 things. One is, I think, 150 million tons capacity addition in China, which basically translates into around 300,000 tons of additional graphite electrode capacity required. That's number 1. Now, outside China, where UHP electrodes are typically used, what is the additional increase in steel capacity and the concomitant / associated increase in graphite electrode expected? Number 1, that's my first question. Number 2, for this, what is the additional amount of carbon black that's required? Let us say all of this capacity needs to be met, this demand needs to be met. And I believe there are just 2 or 3 suppliers for this. And how is that getting mitigated, given the fact that there's a supply side risk in this industry, along with the fact that there's a threat of substitutes that the same carbon black is used in, I think, a lot of mobiles, etc. nowadays. And number 3, just to understand the margins. In 2017, you were working with your old, the old contracts. So effectively, you did a EBITDA margin of around, if I'm not wrong, in FY17 of around negative -2%, and I think FY18 would have been, FY18 the overall margins are around 40%, 45%. So based on that, an FY18 would have had, let's say, 50% of the old contract and 50% of the new contracts. And FY19 would be basically overall new contracts. So then, can you just confirm whether these workings are okay, or is there something that I'm missing here? Thank you.
Okay. So answer to your first question is, we spoke about 110 million tons of new electric arc furnace capacities in China, and not 150 that you spoke about. Your second question was that how much is this number? What is this number in the rest of the world? See, electric arc furnace production in rest of the world has more or less stagnated around 375, 380 million tons for the last 10 to 15 years. It hasn't changed at all. And because of the closures of the induction and the blast furnaces in China, the resultant impact immediately was that the exports of steel, which were 110 million tons, suddenly dropped to 70 million tons. So which means arithmetically, somebody else in Turkey or India or America or Europe or someplace in the Western world, somebody had to produce 40 million tons of additional steel in his own country, which he had stopped, or his capacity utilization was down to 50, 60, 70%. And out of that 40 million tons, about 45 to 50% of the world steel is produced through the electric arc furnace. So if 40 million tons of steel exports dropped in 2017, it is very safe to assume that this additional 40 million tons was produced in the world somewhere, and that is what is shown in the total steel numbers, which grew by about 8 to 10% in the electric arc furnace last year. And so to make it very simple, I mean, as I said, the electric arc furnace outside of China has been in the region of about 375 million tons for a number of years. So another 40 million tons, which probably got produced in the Western world to replace the Chinese exports, which got down. If you add that 40 million tons on the 375, we are talking about the same 9 or 10% number. So let's say 45 million tons of additional electric arc furnace got produced in the world. And secondly, in addition to steel, finished steel, China has also been exporting a lot of semi-finished steel. And that semi-finished steel exports dropped in 2017 by more than 70%. So if the exports drop by 70% from China to the rest of the world, obviously the rest of the world will have to produce that steel, which didn't come from China. So again, 45% of that goes into electric arc furnace. So there is no reported figure. I mean, we are only talking from our experience and our knowledge of this industry. But this is what has led to a supply-demand imbalance. And at a time, as I said, the electrode capacities in the world had already come down by 20% between 2013 and 2015. Now, talking about our raw material, you spoke about carbon black. It is not carbon black. Our raw material is called needle coke. And this needle coke is a product which is produced through oil. And as you know, the oil prices are going up, so that's a separate issue. But this is also like electrodes. It's a fairly high technology area where the technology is controlled by only 3 companies in the world, 1 in US and 2 in America, 2 in Japan. And this needle coke over the last 3-4 years has been in abundant supply because the electrode market was not enough. And the electrode market was not large enough to consume all the needle coke of the world. So the largest producer out of these 3, which is this American company, they worked with the Chinese lithium-ion battery guys over the last 3-4 years. And in these 3-4 years, they made needle coke replace some of the existing raw materials which the lithium-ion battery guys were using. So a part of the needle coke, which should normally have come to the graphite industry in current times, was diverted to China not for electrodes, but for the lithium-ion batteries. So that is a development which took place over the last 3-4 years. And the graphite industry realized this only last year because there was not enough needle coke left. And going forward, as I said, one of these this American company that we are talking about, they are in the process of debottlenecking their plant to the extent of about 50,000 tons. And this should be in operation by August, September, October of this year. So that will give some relief to the graphite industry. This will add another 50,000 tons of coke in the world. Now, your last question, I think, was about EBITDA. So I'll request Mr. Rastogi to answer that question.
How much does 1 ton of coke translate into 1 ton of graphite electrode? Is it like?
Yeah, it is 1 to 1. It is 1 to 1.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Could I request your, repeating the question on EBITDA?
Question was basically, I think what Sir had said was that, in FY18, most of FY18 was still left with the old contracts where I think your pricing of the graphite electrodes were at the lower level. Now, is there a kind of indication of what is the current pricing that you're getting for graphite electrodes? Is that in public domain, number one? If not, just want to understand, want to understand what is the EBITDA margin in FY17 and FY18, and how much of FY18 contained the legacy contracts, and when will the legacy contracts end in FY19?
I think you missed this answer. You probably joined the call later, but in our 17-18, or let's say the last quarter of 17-18 Q4, the legacy orders were still about 20-22%. So about 20-22% of our electrodes in Q4 were at those legacy or low-priced orders, let's say. And going forward in the current quarter onwards, we have more or less completed all our sales and dispatches of the low-priced orders. So going forward, it is going to be practically 100% at the new prices. And talking about EBITDA, I think our whole year EBITDA percentage is about 63%. And we are hoping, we are guessing, and that this number has to increase in the next couple of quarters because we don't have any legacy orders to be serviced anymore.
So exactly, that means the EBITDA margin for FY19 could be upwards of 80-90%. If you do a weighted average of the fact that 22% of FY18 was legacy contracts and 78% was new contracts?
No, it's not such a simple arithmetic because obviously our production costs are also going up. Our needle coke, which is in serious short supply, that is also going up every 3 months, every 6 months. But all I can tell you, let's not go into very specific numbers and specific figures, but all I can tell you is that in the next 2 quarters, which means quarter 1 and quarter 2 of current year, for which we are 100% booked as far as our entire production is concerned, we are pretty confident that these margins are going to increase. Because we are aware about all our costs, we have our coke in the stock at a particular price, and we have all the committed orders for the next 6 months.
Yes, sir. Just to understand, because supply side risks are so important, and I think, and I'm sorry if I'm kind of digressing, but is there a way to you didn't talk about the Japanese companies. You don't buy from the Japanese suppliers at all? And,
we do. We of course do.
Indian supplier who supplies it like Reliance or Asian supplier like Aramco, etc., Saudi Aramco, etc.?
No, they don't make needle coke. It's again a technology issue. The technology of producing needle coke rests with only 3 companies, 2 in Japan, 1 in US.
And to set up this is a very high capacity kind of expansion. To set up a needle coke, I assume. It's a high entry barrier business, right?
No, the entry barrier for a newcomer is the technology, basically. Unless one can get the technology from the existing 3 players. So that is the entry barrier, and of course, if this graphite market continues to be as strong as it is now, I'm sure one of these 3 companies, the needle coke suppliers, would be thinking like us to put up a new needle coke plant. But again, it's not easy. I mean, in terms of timing, my guess is that a new needle coke plant will take at least 2 to 3 years' time. Like a new electrode plant will take a minimum of 4 years. I mean, you can't put up a new greenfield plant today in less than 3.5, 4 years.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And thank you and congrats again, and it's really nice to see a promoter so hands-on in this business. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Rahul Murkia from Jefferies. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, sir. Thanks a lot for the opportunity. So just
hello, Rahul.
Hi. So could you just give us, if possible, the average price for needle coke in the last financial year?
See, again, I mean, we would not like to talk about the specific numbers. I'll answer it in the way that I've heard the other companies answer. In the first half of 2017, it was in the region of $500-600. It doubled in the next quarter, like $1,000-1,200, and it has doubled in the first half or calendar year of 2018. So depending on the quality and the grade of electrodes that one is talking about, you can say the needle coke prices will be in the region of $2,500 to $3,300-3,400. Which is an increase from $500 only about a year ago.
Sir, just wanted to understand these needle coke contracts would now be quarterly or they are half-yearly contracts?
It is both. It depends on these 3-4 companies who are the suppliers of coke. Yeah, so it is 6 months and 3 months both. Again, it really depends on which company you're talking about. Okay.
No, the reason why I asked this question is because you have mentioned that you have finalized your first next 2 quarters you are fully booked. So you have priced in your needle coke prices as well in those contracts, or there could be a possibility that the assumptions which you have made for your needle coke would go different than what needle coke you procure?
No, you see, our current contract, let's say, which is a 6-month contract, ends in June. And so obviously we know the price of that. So whatever price we are paying for the current purchase, we are aware about that. And given that it's a product which is imported, which takes 6 to 8 weeks to reach. So and given that the process of electrode making is about 8 to 10 weeks, so obviously there is enough stocks in the pipeline or at the plant, being an imported raw material. So if we are talking about the first 2 quarters of coke cost, we are aware about it, because part of that is still coming at the January-June price, and part of that coke which we still had for, let's say, from December onwards. So it's all a mix. I mean, it's not very easy to explain that, but it's a mix of $1,000 and $2,000 and the currently, let's say, $3,000. So it's a basket of different 3 or 4 prices. But yes, when we are talking about our entire sales being already booked, so obviously we are aware about the average price that we are going to sell in the next 6 months. But on the other side, we are fully aware of the cost of needle coke.
Fair enough, sir. Sir, another thing, just wanted to check. We hear from a lot of steel companies in India that they're seeing 15 to 20% rise in the domestic, on the graphite electrode prices. So can you just clarify, have you taken any price hike starting from the 1st of April for the domestic contracts?
See, See, all our domestic sales are currently happening on a quarterly basis. So obviously, the new quarter, which started from 1st of April, there was a price increase.
So could you just give a rough indication how much it was?
Again, you are asking me something which I can't answer.
No problem, sir. Sir, the next question would be, like, going forward, the cash flows which we are generating, we would be having huge cash. So any plans of, like, can you just give an idea about any dividend payout policies that we would have in place or anything of that sort?
See, as Mr. Rastogi just said, we are a debt-free company today, so we neither have a long-term debt nor we have a short-term debt or working capital debt. Although we can borrow at 5.5% in rupee, I mean, there is, as you know, there's an export subvention rate for rupee, and so exporting companies can borrow at 5.5% in rupee, where there is no foreign exchange risk either. So currently, we are not borrowing anything against that also. And so treasury management is now going to become extremely important for us. And we are in the process of organizing our office to take care of the treasury management. And so in the last about 2-3 weeks, a certain amount of cash flows have been generated, which are going into treasury. And I mean, currently we don't have any immediate plans for any diversification or a large investment. We are basically managing cash, and as you've seen, we announced a 300% interim dividend. We announced a 500% final dividend. We are basically maintaining our, let's say, for the last 10 years, if you look at our payout, it has been between 30-35%. So the reason the board considered to give 500% final dividend was in line with whatever we have done in the last 5 years. So it is about 31-32%. So for the time being, I mean, our intent is that we'll keep on doing whatever we have done in the last 10 years, and we'll conserve cash on the balance sheet. But yes, we are looking at a couple of very high growth opportunities which are available in the related space of carbon. There are a couple of areas which require a lot of R&D and which require a collaboration with somebody in the world. So we are looking at some of these areas where not a lot of capital, but it is more or less going to be in the same line. I mean, we know carbon. So in the carbon area, we are looking at some investments here and there. But these are very, very early stages, and these are areas which are extremely high growth areas.
So any buybacks on the card?
And I'll have to ask my board to answer you.
Okay. So final question to Raju sir, if he can just highlight this statement, like employee benefit expenses have increased because of the provisioning of profit related to commission payable to CMD. So how much percentage was, I mean, can he just give some color on this point?
Yeah, this is 2.5% as per the terms of appointment of the CMD of the company.
The 2.5% of what it would be? I mean, like 2.5%
of the Profit Under Companies Act. Profit Under Companies Act, there is something called remuneration payable to the managerial person under Companies Act, Section 198 and 197. So it is all payable under that section as per calculation provided in that section.
Okay, so 2.5% of profit would be the additional amount which is sitting in employee benefits. Apart from that,
employee benefits as a provision.
Other than that, that would be on a regular basis our employee expenses.
Yes.
No, but Mr. Sogi, we have to clarify this because I think a month ago or 6 weeks ago,
there was an incentive scheme. Okay, I think I'll add to it. We have an incentive scheme based on profit for employees as well. So the employees have also been given incentives based on profit during the financial year 17-18, and that there is no what you call a policy, but it is management decision driven. So this year we have paid an incentive for profits earned by the company, which is over and above the normal salary.
So can you just give some color, like how much, what run rate should we take going forward? Like, would 4Q be the best?
Rahul, you cannot define a policy for such matters because these are not as per the law. Now, the management, based on the performance of the individual, decides on, how to incentivize and improve productivity. So it is a call which we take based on the performance on ground.
Okay, fair enough, sir.
So, but to answer your question, you spoke about debottlenecking. I mean, as I said in my opening remarks, we have debottlenecked the plant. And going forward, from a current level of our last 12 months average was about 80%, which increased to 84% in the last quarter. And going forward in the whole of current year, we do expect to run the plant at in the high 80s.
Oh, thanks a lot.
But again, the problem to go beyond the high 80s or 90 is not the market, but it is a needle coke. And I guess every graphite producer is facing this issue. Nobody is able to go beyond 85-90%. And that's where we have certain advantages in India because we can produce 15-20% of non-UHP, and that doesn't require needle coke.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks for answering the question.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Anup Lal from Dalmia Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Congratulations for the good set of results.
Thank you.
So I want to ask you one thing. I was going through the balance sheet and data, and then what I find that the sales have increased nearly by threefold. Nearly 90 crores. So why?
You see, when the prices have gone up from $2,000 to 5 digits, every number has to increase. So if I have a 60-day cycle to get my payment or a 90-day cycle, earlier it was at $2,500. Currently it is in 5 digits. But obviously, I mean, the payment terms have obviously not been relaxed. I mean, in fact, from an average of 4 or 5 months, which used to be the case 2 years ago or 1 year ago, now we are down to 90 days, and probably if the things continue the way they are, they could go to 70, 75 days.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Ashish Gupta from Farang International. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
As we know, I mean, like China and some nations, they are moving to huge environmental issues. Is India also away from DOF towards US production as well?
Is India doing what?
Is India also moving from blast to electric arc furnace production as well?
Yeah, India has. I mean, if you look at the recent expansion of JSPL or the other Jindal company, JSL, they also put up a new plant in Odisha.
Yeah.
They're all electric arc furnaces.
Okay. If it is moving, how equipped are we? Yeah.
And the second reason about electric arc furnace is that it is smaller than blast furnace. I mean, a typical blast furnace in today's modern age will not be less than 8 to 10 million tons. And unless a country is growing so fast that it needs another 8 to 10 million tons of steel, they're not going to build a capacity of 8 to 10 million tons, which is what a typical blast furnace would be. But when it comes to electric arc furnace, you can choose whatever size you want. I mean, you can do a 1 million ton plant, you can do a 3 million ton plant. So there's a lot of flexibility in case of electric arc furnace.
Right, right. Is that how equipped are we for the switch in terms of raw material and associated infrastructure?
Switch in terms of what?
Infrastructure and rest of the amenities which we require to set up a ES plant in India. Raw material.
So raw. No, as I said, we do produce about 20-25% of non-UHP, which is produced out of the Indian coke, and for the balance 80-85%, it is all needle coke.
Absolutely. Which is short. Absolutely, we all know. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Subrata Sarkar from Mount Infra. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Sarkar.
Hello. Yeah. Good afternoon, sir. My question is also in line of receivables, sir. Just one small understanding from the future perspective. Like now, after this increase in price, so now we are entering into more short-term dynamic contracts, sir. So in that case, is there a possibility, like, since we are entering into short-term contracts, the receivables amount as a percentage of sales goes down? Means previously from 5-6 months, can we expect 2-3 months of receivable in that case?
See, I would like to answer this question. Mr. Sarkar, it is a factor of credit practice in the market for the product. So even if the contract is done on a quarterly basis, the payment term is based on market practice. So it will not result into even the contract is 3 months delivery. The payment term is irrespective of that.
Sir, but since we are in such a good position in terms of because of this ESCC, can't we, sir, improve the payment terms to some extent?
No, that I think
Hello?
you are right. We can improve the payment terms, and they are already improved from earlier 4-5 months to today 3 months. So you see, we will take a conscious call because the market, we are a long-term player, and we do not want to change the market practices based on 1 year or 2 years of exceptional circumstances.
Okay, I got your point. So more or less, we would like to continue with the same payment terms, sir.
See, for our long associated customers, definitely there has to be a consistency. For spot market, you can charge based on today's need of the market. So more or less, we would like to go on a practice which can be sustained for longer time.
Okay, I got it, sir. Sir, just one legacy question. Maybe you have addressed it, but still, for me to better understand this to some extent. So, when I was following your company, 1 year back, so maybe few months prior to graphite price start moving up very abruptly because of certain situations, we were not being able to predict this situation. And what I mean to say is that, sir, only within 2-3 months, situation has changed drastically. I know things are plant and all those things, but the movement of change in the situation has been very furious. I would say it was really very fast. So can you help me to understand why this within a short time period such a change has taken place previously basically?
You see, China takes very, very quick and very abrupt and very sudden decisions.
Okay.
China being a giant, when obviously it starts moving, everything starts shaking. So suddenly one day they woke up to this fact of environment and they said that these 150 million tons of blast furnaces have to be closed. And unfortunately for the graphite industry, this happened in December, January of 2016-17, which is when we normally negotiate a 6 or a 12-month contract for that calendar year. So if this had happened, if China had taken this decision in October, November of 16, then what the prices and everything that you are seeing today would have been seen in the whole of 2017, because all the new contracts are discussed in November, December, January, when there was absolutely no indication to anyone about this such a huge move. I mean, to put it into perspective, I mean, we are talking about 150 million tons of steel plants getting closed in China in 6 months' time. And India's total production of steel is 100 million tons. So they've closed in 6 months 1.5 times of steel capacity of what India produces. So obviously it's a huge thing. I mean, it's not a very small step.
I got your point. So just last question from my side. So it is very clear that graphite capacity cannot go up at a hurry. But only, I know although this is, probability is very low, but things can go, things can change if, for example, since China is unpredictable, if China's steel capacity means whatever they have closed, percentage of that they start opening up. So although there is question, just I am trying to understand. That is where there can be a change in the dynamics in that case.
You see, as far as the UHP electrodes are concerned, it's a technology issue. There are only five, six companies in the world who have the technology. Secondly, as I said, a new greenfield plant takes at least 3.5 to 4 years' time. There is a possibility of a little bit of debottlenecking here and there in every plant. And the only reason the graphite industry is not able to take advantage of that debottlenecking is the shortage of coke. And now that is anybody's guess. I mean, what you are asking me, it's very difficult for anybody to answer that question. That will China one day allow all these antiquated 100-year-old induction furnaces and blast furnaces to restart? I mean, if they had to do it, they would not close it in any case. And and whatever they have closed because of the environment issue, a lot of that is being now replaced by electric arc furnaces.
Okay.
They put up 110 million tons of new electric arc furnace over the next 2-3 years. You have practically replaced all the 150 million tons of closed capacity.
Okay, sir. I think this is enough from my side, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Varun Mehta from IIFL Securities. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Sir, I have two questions. One, I want to know what is our mix with domestic and export, the quantity which we will be producing, sir?
It's about 2/3, 1/3.
So 1/3 will be domestic, am I right?
Yeah.
And sir, I just want to have one question on the graphite. As they were listing, they have a capacity of 1.4 lakh ton for needle coke.
Yes.
And by Q3, they are saying they will open up 30,000 ton of capacity more. But is the needle coke would be available to them right now?
No, they're announced, whatever they have said publicly is that probably they would increase their needle coke capacity by about 10,000 tons. There is not much scope to increase from 140 to 150.
Right.
And for this debottlenecking and for all this new capacity that they're talking about, I mean, what they've said is that they will buy from the third parties. I mean, basically third party means the three existing suppliers who are selling to all of us. So they will go back to the same supplier. But the only question here is that there is a shortage of needle coke, and Graphtec stopped buying from these existing suppliers any coke in the last 7, 8, 9 years. So in times of shortages, whether these current, the existing three companies, would they increase supplies to their existing customers who have been with them for the last 30, 40 years, or go to a new customer? I mean, that's for them to decide.
Right. And sir, I just want to know what would be the price, the percentage difference in the domestic and the export pricing, what we are doing, the percentage difference on that side?
See, this kind of a specific information we can't talk about, but it is, domestic prices are lower than exports.
Right, that I know. And sir, going ahead, like we are assuming that this year going to be very good for us. The dividend payout ratio can increase, or will we have the same policy going ahead, 30-35% what we have?
It's a dynamic world. I mean, nothing is static. I mean, anything can change. It's a matter of time. I mean, the board has to take that decision. And obviously, with the kind of cash flows that we are talking about in the next 12 months,
right.
And for the time being, as I said, there are no immediate plans to use this money in a large plant. Or so the best thing for us would be to use all this cash. First, to increase this capacity of our existing plant from 80,000 to 100,000 tons, which is very, very easy. And the next best thing would have been to put up a new greenfield plant. It may take 4 years, but you have to start one day.
Right.
But that is not possible because of the needle coke. So for the current time, we don't have any immediate plans for a very large acquisition, but as I said, we are looking at a couple of carbon-related area, which is what we know about. The company knows carbon extremely well for 30, 40 years, and we have located a couple of areas where there is likely to be very high growth.
Okay. Right, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Yash Chinchanwala from Individual Investor. Please go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, please.
Hi. So my question was regarding the additional capacity in China that's going to come up by end of 2018 and then by end of 2020 eventually. So this additional demand of 275,000 tons of graphite electrodes, is this demand going to be supplied by some Indian players as well, or is it going to come from Chinese suppliers only?
No, as I said, they're adding 110 million tons of electric arc furnace, which will mean anywhere between 250 to 300,000 tons of additional electrodes.
Right.
And the kind of furnaces that they are building right now, because we are aware about at least 65 million tons of such furnaces which are already under construction. Part of them have already started production. The other part is going to be starting production by end of this year. So going by that trend, they are still building small furnaces where you don't require UHP electrodes.
So this will not create additional demand for us, is it?
No, that's what I said. So given that their demand over the next 4 years is going to, the demand of electrode is likely to grow by about, let's say, 250 to 300,000 tons.
Mm-hmm.
So they will have to, there is no way for them but to add more graphite capacities, either in greenfield plant or brownfield plants or whatever they want to do. And in case they are not able to add 250, 300,000 tons of electrode capacity in the next 2-3 years, which looks very difficult given the long lead time that a graphite plant takes. So that could open up a new market for us. We have never exported to China. We have never looked at it seriously because but they only wanted the low-grade electrodes. So there is a possibility of this new market opening up for people like us.
Okay, thanks. And my second question is regarding the additional steel capacity that's coming on stream. So once this additional capacity of steel is on stream, do you think China might start exporting again, and that will force electric arc furnaces abroad to even again start cutting down because China will again start increasing exports?
So you have to look at it from this point of view that they've closed 150 million tons of furnaces already. Not electric arc furnace, but steel furnaces.
Yes, correct.
And they have announced in their policy that they have to close another 150 million tons.
Okay.
So if a country is closing 300,000 tons of its productive capacity, which was producing steel up till now, and they are adding 100 million tons to replace this 300,000 tons through electric arc furnaces. And China is still growing. It's still the fastest growing economy. So their appetite and their demand, the local demand of steel, is not coming down at all. So if they are closing 300 million tons and they are only adding 110 million tons of electric arc furnace. So theoretically, mathematically, their capacity of steel is down by 200 million tons in any case.
Okay.
So where are they going to export from? They are themselves going to be in short supply as far as steel is concerned.
Okay. And my final last question is, can you give us any sense on what the global demand for ultra-high power electrode is?
See, roughly speaking, it is around 600 to 700,000 tons.
Okay. And we expect this number to remain intact for the near future, for the next couple of years?
No, we are expecting this demand to keep increasing by at least about 5-6%, because this phenomena of shift from blast furnaces to electric arc furnaces is just not limited to China.
Okay. So our markets might increase because of this increase.
Yes, and so as I said, the demand of UHP electrodes, let's say, has been in the region of about 600,000 tons for a very long time. And suddenly this demand, because of whatever we have just discussed, went up by about 100,000 tons last year. So currently we believe that the electrode demand, UHP electrode demand, is in the region of, let's say, 700,000 tons. Whereas the electrode capacities which exist today are exactly 700,000 tons. So to meet the current demand of 700,000 tons, the capacity is exactly 700. So it means all the 18, 19 plants around the world who constitute this 700,000 tons, all of them need to operate at 100% capacity 24 hours a day for 365 days in a year. So which is very, very impractical to assume that all the 19 plants in 12 different countries will be able to operate at 100% capacity. And secondly, there is no needle coke for that 700,000 tons. So everybody is operating at 80-85%.
Okay, so just to follow up on this, if there is such a big shortage of needle coke, I was just going through some reports from Graphtec and Showa Denko. So Showa Denko says that they are increasing capacity by 35,000 tons of graphite electrodes, and Graphtec is doing this, and Showa Denko is increasing capacity of 25,000 tons. So that's about 60,000 tons there. So where do they is there any other supply of needle coke also coming up that they have planned to expand these capacities?
No, we don't see any new capacity. We only see this 60,000 tons of debottlenecking, which is happening currently in the American plant. So, but I have not heard of SDK's announcement of adding 30,000 tons. It's a news to me.
Okay. It's in their investor presentation.
And Graphtec is saying that they will have to buy this coke for additional quantity
Correct,
from one of the three existing suppliers.
Okay, so there is no news on needle coke capacity expansion apart from the largest player in America, but there is news from these companies expanding capacities.
They're adding 25,000-30,000 tons of electrode capacity as against this 50,000-60,000 tons of additional needle coke capacity which is coming in.
Okay, thank you so much. That answers all my questions. Thank you so much, and congratulations once again.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Harsh Shah from PM Securities. Please go ahead.
First of all, congratulations on good set of numbers, sir.
Thank you.
So if we look at realizations for this quarter were roughly at $11,800. And if you're saying 20% was at old contracts, that means the rest of the 80% contracts were an upward of $14,000 that we did. So is there, I know you would not like to talk on numbers as such, but is there a base case that we are going by for the coming quarters that we will not sell below at least $14,000 or $15,000 for the coming quarters?
You see, as I said, for the next two quarters, Q1 and Q2, we are fully committed. So there is nothing left to be sold. All the raw material is arranged. All the prices are frozen on the raw material front. All the sales have already been committed at particular prices. So the next two quarters are extremely well visible.
But it would be better than those 80% realizations as well, or would it be?
What was your question?
So I said it would be better than the realization. So for the Q4, I'm assuming the 80% of the remaining contracts were done on upward of $14,000 contracts per ton.
That is what you are saying. I'm not saying. But all I can say is that, yes, in the current and the next quarter, our average realization is going to be higher than Q4, and which is logical because this 20% of the legacy orders which we still had in Q4 are all finished now.
Correct. So, but there wouldn't be any guidance as to the prices would be anywhere in the range if you can just give us.
See, in answer to a question from one of the fellow participants, I did mention that in the Indian market, we are going by a policy of a price every quarter.
Correct.
And I also answered that our domestic prices from April to June have gone up.
Correct.
You see, I mean, again, I can give you some indication which is publicly available. If you read the transcript of the Graftex con call about a week ago, somebody had asked them that question about the spot prices. And their answer to that question was, according to them, these spot prices are ranging between $17,000 to $23,000. But again, let me not confuse the situation because I'm not at all suggesting that electrode prices, average electrode sales are happening at $17,000 to $23,000. I'm only repeating what they said, and there are orders, there are spot sales which are happening at these prices, which was mentioned by Graftex.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for answering every question.
Thank you.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Anubhav Sahu from MC Research. Please go.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please, go ahead.
So my question regarding the needle coke capacity which was earlier thought to be coming from Concall Philips. Given that into situation, does it have any implications for changes for product mix or improved capacity utilization, things like that? Is there visibility on some kind of tie-up with the company on that front, sir?
So there'll be no major change in the product mix. We are still carrying some excess capacity in the plant. So if we are able to manage to get some more coke because of this debottlenecking, then our total production will increase, and so there will be not a very major shift in the product mix, so to say. But again, as I said, currently the product mix really doesn't make much of a difference because it's all a matter of margins. I mean, wherever you get a higher margin, you produce that electrode.
Right, sir. Second, sir, you mentioned that the ratio for a current and legacy contract is around 80-20 for graphite electrode, which comes to 100% this quarter. Similarly, can you provide a breakup on the needle coke? Where are we placed right now? How is the breakup now as far as the legacy contract is concerned?
No, in case of needle coke, as I said, we have a 6-month contract with the American supplier, who is our major supplier. So these prices are valid till June, and so from July onwards, we are still negotiating. We have no idea about the new prices will be, and that is why I also said that we have to now decide whatever price increase has to take place from Q3. Because as I said, being an imported raw material, I mean, we have the fixed price until June, which we are aware.
Right.
So those shipments will probably come to us in the month of June, July, August, and then as you know, the electrode cycle takes about 8 to 10 weeks. So part of the Q3 will still have the needle coke from current prices, and the other part, which will be produced from the new price coke coming from July, that will be the other part.
Right. And so, in terms of expectation, you can provide some guidance. What is the minimum gross margin we should be looking at with the prevailing contract prices, which could it be upside of 50% when the things stabilize as far as the contract cycles are concerned?
No, for the next 6 months, as I told you, I mean, we are fully booked at a price which is certainly higher than Q4. Secondly, the 20% legacy orders that were part of the Q4 prices are no more there. And for the next 6 months, for Q3, Q1, and Q2, we have all the coke at current prices. So the margin is going to be higher than at least the Q4.
Okay. That's great, sir. And so one last question regarding the capacity expansion. If we move from 80 to 1 lakh, so whenever we decide to go for it, how much time period should take?
So we have started the spade work on the assumption that needle coke will be available. I mean, obviously, you see, currently our production capacity is 80,000 tons, and we are guiding for current year to produce in the range of in the high 80s range. So currently we still have a spare capacity for about 10% of our current capacity itself. So we are not going to. So what we are doing is we have appointed a consultant and we have created a team in the office to plan for the next step to go to 100,000 tons. And by August, September of this year, we would have a full report on the table about how much money has to be spent on that, from which country, what kind of equipment have to be ordered. But the decision-making on that report is not going to be anytime soon until we are assured of the additional coke which we will require because of this 20,000 tons.
Okay. That's very helpful, sir. Thanks for taking my question.
Thank you.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Devang Sangvi from ICICI Direct. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. Congrats on a good set of numbers.
Thank you.
My question is relating to needle coke. This additional 50,000 what we're expecting in August, September, do we expect all of them to go to graphite electrode manufacturing or some can also go to EV manufacturing as the case has been of late?
Frankly, we are not aware about that, and that is a question for which we are looking for that answer, but we don't have that answer at all.
Okay.
But I'm sure, if you look at current profile of this company, which is the largest one, they are selling about 15% of their total coke for the other use, lithium battery use.
Yes, sir.
So I'd be very surprised if they will not change, if they will substantially change this number.
Okay, sir. And aren't the Japanese one exploring this particular expansion for maybe debottlenecking from needle coke? That's such a key element at the moment.
No, up till now we haven't heard of that. Obviously we are in touch with them regularly.
Okay.
But I don't think they've taken any steps in that direction.
Okay, sir. This 375 to 380 KT, 375 to 380 million ton of EF production of steel. Do we expect what expectation we have for this growth rate? This can go at 2-3% at least, because US is also planning to expand or improve its production profile, which is broadly EF based.
See, as I said, last year the electric arc furnace production went up by about 40 million tons.
Okay.
We hope, we are pretty sure about this year, at least 2018. And as you rightly said, the world outside of China produces 45 to 47% of steel through electric arc furnace.
Yes, sir.
And it's a more flexible way of producing steel. And as you know, 2/3 of American steel is produced through the electric arc furnace, and America is the one who is adding more and more capacity of steel. That's the country which is growing the fastest outside of China.
Yes, sir.
So the expectation is that the electric arc furnace share, which is 46-47% currently, will only keep going up. And then the second point was that the electric arc furnace production was limited because of scrap availability. Now China has started producing and generating huge amount of scrap, and that steel scrap is only good for use in the electric arc furnace industry. And on that assumption, and because of that only, China has gone into adding about 110 million tons, because they have that scrap now.
Okay. And my third question is regarding the export and the domestic mix for this particular FY18. What was it, and how do we see it going forward?
It's more or less 2/3, 1/3. This number has changed very little for us in the last 6-7 years.
Okay.
It is more or less in that same region.
And this capacity utilization which you are guiding at high 80s, do we see it to be, do we see any volatility in quarter-wise basis, or it should be on a normalized basis for all the 4 quarters, maybe?
Not much. Our Q4 utilization was 84%.
Yes, sir.
So when we are talking of the whole year, coming 12 months being in the high 80s, so we just have to go from 84% to maybe 89-90%.
Okay.
There'll not be too much of a volatility, no.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Kansham Binani, individual investor. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, HEG team. Great numbers, great performance. Wish you all the best. I was just going through the financials a bit. Needed a confirmation on a couple of things. One is the revenue stream, which has been coming over the quarters from June onwards. Quarter on quarter, we've been having excellent performance coming up, and the EBITDA margin has been actually not galloping but jumping, right from about 30% in June to, sorry, just a second, please. Yeah, from 6% to 43% in September to 65% December, and now 72% for quarter 4. This is despite the hike in the revenue, the input costs, right?
Yeah.
So that means even the legacy contracts what we had were all at very, very good margins. In terms of increasing pricing.
No, legacy orders were not at good prices. They actually pulled down the average. But legacy orders were maybe 30-35%, which went down to 20% in the last quarter, and which are practically zero currently. So that's the reason that the average price was pulled down. If we had not, we didn't have those legacy orders to be completed till last quarter, the average prices would have been much higher than that.
Okay. That's one. The second thing is that what's the current inventory level like?
Finished product?
As of now, the inventory level?
You're talking of inventory level of finished products.
Finished products. Number of days?
There's no inventory. We are probably working on two days inventory.
Okay, so that's absolutely negative. Of the growth areas that you're talking about, are you considering any capacity on CPCs, calcined petroleum coke? That also seems to be a pretty growing area.
No. You see, as I just said, our non-UHP products don't need needle coke. So they are produced out of the Indian CPC. And there's enough Indian CPC. There's nothing to worry on that front. And on the other 80%, you know the whole story. And that nobody can help that because that technology is not available to anybody. Okay. Right. Thank you.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Jinesh Sanghvi from Principal Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, sir. Couple of things. We have seen a 30% increase in our raw material cost if I have to compare from June till March. So on an index basis, what is the incremental increase that we could see on our raw material cost? If you can share those details, can it, on an index basis, can it further double from here on, or what kind of an increase could there be?
Mr. Rastogi will probably answer that question.
See, it is, yes, it would double in terms of, if we compare with 17-18, we definitely expect it to double in 18-19.
Okay. Or more than double?
I'm talking about average for the year, so my estimate is that would be between double and at the most 2.5 times.
Okay. Secondly, sir, you said most of these Chinese capacities would be capable of using the low-grade HP electrodes. So can we comfortably say that the largest EAFs would not be in a position to use the HP-grade electrodes compared to the smaller EAFs? Is that a fair conclusion that we can draw from this?
Yeah, exactly. And in answer to somebody else's question, I had just said that there's a public data which is available which says that in 2017 and 2018, China is adding about 60 million tons of electric arc furnace. And they've also said that there are 105 new furnaces for the 60-65 million tons additional capacity.
Right.
So if you take into account 60 million tons of additional capacity coming out of 105 new plants, the average size is no more than about 500,000 or 550,000 tons per furnace. So typically, that is a very clear indication that all the new capacities of electric arc furnaces which are coming in China are for small furnaces which only require non-UHP. They don't even require UHP.
Okay. And the larger EFs overseas or globally will require the UHP irrespective of the prices or the price differential that's been there between an HP and a UHP grade.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, nowhere in the world anybody is putting up a new plant of as small as 500,000 tons.
Right.
I mean, just if you look at India, there are at least 5 or 6 furnaces, electric arc furnaces, which are 1.5 million to 2 million tons each.
Okay.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Payal Goenka from Ratnamali Investment. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. Congratulations for a very good set of numbers.
Thank you.
So my question is, out of your total production of graphite electrode, how much goes into ladle furnace?
See, as I said, about 80-85% of our production is UHP, so none of that goes to ladle furnace. And out of the 20-25 of the non-UHP, I don't have this number exactly in my mind, but there is you can say maybe about half and half or something like that. So let's say 10%, just for the sake of saying some number.
Oh. So one more thing. So now we are seeing that Graftech is going into 5-year contract. So is there any possibility like a company like us, like if we can take some needle coke producer into confidence, if we can, get some cost pass-through arrangement, and if we can get into long-term contract, so that will give the investors the visibility of the prices in the long term?
No, I'm sure if needle coke suppliers are willing to talk about that, every electrode guy will want to do that. But given the current situation, I mean, if you put me into that question, that as a graphite producer, would we like to do a 5-year contract of graphite?
Yes, sir.
We will not do it. Because in a market which is very strong and in a market which looks to be growing and which looks to be stronger in the future because there is no new supply of electrode going to come from any other source, why will somebody take a 5-year call?
But the Graftech has taken.
I mean, you see, I can only speak about...
Yes, I understand
I can't speak about other company, but...
Yes, so in general, it's just that it will give you the price visibility, like to the investors. As in, for the next 2 quarters, you told that you are booked. So after that, like, we really do not know what is the situation.
I can only give you an indication that given the current market conditions, the current demand, it will not be lower than what we are going to do in Q1 and Q2. In all probability, it will be higher.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking the question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that seemed to be the last question. I would now like to hand the floor over to Mr. Ravi Jhunjhunwala for his closing comments.
Thank you, friends, for taking so much of interest in our company. Probably this has been the longest call that we ever had. And I hope to speak to you in the next 3-4 months' time. And I'm very confident that we are on a growth path. We are sitting on a strong market. And I'm confident that when we speak next time, we'll be speaking of better numbers. Thank you.